make the show go quicker. And right now, he was not with us yesterday because he was flying. And boy, you get it. And he's back now, safe and sound with us. The one, the only from the Athletic, Matthew Barrows. Good morning, Matt.
Yes, I was Eagles flying.
Yeah. A lot more than we saw on Sunday. Matt, I don't know, maybe you already wrote it. I apologize if you didn't. I didn't read it. But why would you not give the Niners, and forgive me if you already did, an A+? What would knock them off an A+ for you, if anything?
Well, the first quarter was probably a D-.
That's true.
So, yeah, if you're a student and you have a 4-quarter year, get a D-. That first quarter, it's hard to pull that sucker up to an A+ by the end of the year. But that was bad. I mean, there were some things to be concerned about. I think that something that no one really noticed early in the season was that the safeties were playing so well, and so there were very few explosive plays by the opponents. And I thought that the rookie, Jair Brown, had a couple of missed tackles in the game that led to explosive plays. Now, the 49ers offense was so explosive in its own right that didn't really matter. But, that's your job as a safety, is to keep short and medium plays short and medium and keep them from turning into bigger plays. And I didn't think that group has played as well as it usually does. But, I mean, we're really having to kind of look into the nooks and crannies to find errors in this game. They were flying high from that end of the first quarter onward.
And just to kind of follow up on that then, Matt, what since we are kind of trying to post-mortem nitpick here, can you put your finger on what was it that, whatever it was, 123 yards to -2 in the first quarter, Eagles, Niners, like what was it that flipped the switch? And in the second, third, and fourth quarter, it was an absolute shellacking. What was different?
I mean, even in the second quarter, it didn't start out great.
Yeah.
I want to say that there was a penalty or something on the very first drive of the second quarter, the 49ers' third drive. And they just were able to kind of muster a first down. It was barely a first down. I think it was a 3rd and 3 throw to George Kittle. And then the floodgates opened. I think it's a combination of things. Obviously, there was a talent disparity between the 49ers offense and the Eagles defense. So the longer the 49ers were on the field, the more that was eventually going to get exposed. So I think that first down was so important. And then, we were talking about this for a week. The Eagles had played these kind of marathon games against the Chiefs and then really against the Bills the week before. So again, the longer the offense is on the field and the Eagles defense is on the field, the more fatigue starts to set in. I think you really saw that, in the second quarter and certainly in the third quarter, where the Eagles just weren't able to tackle, weren't able to kind of keep up, and the 49ers just steamrolled them. 6 straight touchdowns. And Deebo Samuel looking like a bowling ball, just kind of crashing through the pins that were the Eagles' defense in that game. And I think all those things kind of came together, and that's why it was such a blowout.
Talking with Matt Barrows here, and Matt's brought to you by Stockton Honda, Northern California's #1 Honda dealer. That momentum they got, Matt, those 6 straight scoring drives that you talked about, and really just started to dominate the game. Obviously, they executed very, very well, but I thought Kyle Shanahan called a really good game, too. Whether it was preparation on that and identifying open things, obviously Purdy's got to read it, and or McCaffrey when he's running. But what did you think about just the plays they called, the design, the execution of really everything offensively in that game?
Yeah, I mean, the question is whether that was Kyle Shanahan's best game of the season. And the answer is probably yes. You go back to the Cowboys game, maybe that's the one that compares with it. But you're right. I mean, once they got the Eagles on their heels, they never regained their balance. And that's what a Kyle Shanahan offense does. All of the weaponry healthy, totally healthy. All of the offensive line totally healthy. Everything was at full strength. They had a few extra days even to kind of rest up. And when that happens, the 49ers offense is hard to stop. So you saw that. It was vintage Kyle Shanahan. All the motions. I thought that he was using Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey really well together. One guy going one way, the other guy going the other way. The Eagles' offense stepping in the wrong direction. It was a clinic on how to kind of get momentum and then just keep building it throughout the game. Like I said, vintage Kyle Shanahan, probably his best called game of the season.
Matt Barrows with us. I didn't have the security guy getting thrown out in my bingo card, and it sounds like things have softened. Matt, I thought, and Jason, I talked about this yesterday, maybe the key to the game was that I think it was a 3rd and 7 conversion Purdy had after the Eagles had scored the touchdown, all that stuff with Dre Greenlaw. I'm not saying the Eagles would have won the game had they not converted, but boy, did that seem like a momentum shifter right there.
No, for sure, and you felt it inside the stadium, and the Eagles fans felt it as well. It was just a real sort of joy. The Eagles want to turn it into a street fight late in the game. That's how they won those previous 2 games in the fourth quarter. And they're a good fourth quarter team. They've got a tremendous offensive line. They've got a really opportunistic quarterback. And there was a sense that, okay, this is the moment. This is where we do our Eagles thing, and we take over this game. We just snatch this game from the 49ers, and it would have been absolutely soul-crushing if that had happened to the 49ers. And you're absolutely right. That throw that Purdy made, sort of a innocuous run-of-the-mill throw, I think it was to Brandon Ayuk at the sideline for a first down, but like I said, it's comparable to that throw I was describing earlier to George Kittle. It was right at the sticks. It creates the first down, and it just kind of puts a little bit of not even a bucket, but some water on the flame that was starting to whip up at that point. And again, you could feel it in the stadium. The Eagles fans, we make fun of them. They're awful in so many ways, but they are a part of those wins. They are very sort of, I won't say smart, but they're very savvy in how they see the game, and they yell at the refs, and they kind of whip up their team at key moments. And they were in full whip at that point. And this guy, Big Dom, I mean, this guy's going to become, if he wasn't already a folk hero there, he's gonna. I don't see him having to pay for a drink in Philadelphia for the rest of his life, even though they lost that game. But that's such a Philly move. Everything was vintage Philly at that moment. And Brock Purdy and Brandon Ayuk in that offense made sure that didn't continue throughout the rest of the game.
I like that, Matt. He said, I don't want to call him smart, but
right, savvy.
I don't want to give them any sort of credit whatsoever. But
so we know, and you documented it, many people did, when they lost last year to Philly. And I personally thought the Niners probably were hanging on to that too much, at least publicly, and talking about it. It's like, yeah, you lost. There are reasons why you lost, but you lost. So now they back it up, though. I mean, that was that back up your talk performance. What were they saying after, as far as, look, we wanted them, we got them, we beat them in their house soundly? What was kind of the theme after the game?
I mean, it varied from person to person. There was certainly a I told you so vibe from some of the players that, their theme throughout the offseason was that, we felt really great about our game plan. We knew where the Eagles' weaknesses were. We just were helpless to exploit those because of our quarterback situation. And so after the game, after they exploited all of those weaknesses, there was a sense of, see, that's what we were talking about. So, I mean, I think that also kind of speaks to their frustration and why they seem to cling to it a long time, because they had a vision for how they could beat this team, and they just weren't able to carry through with that in that game back in January. And they certainly were on Sunday. So there was that. But then, from Brock Purdy, I mean, there's certain players that just can't get into that mindset. It's just not conducive for them. Purdy's whole point was that, yeah, this was a big win for us, but if we lose Sunday against the Seahawks, or if we lose the next game in Arizona against the Cardinals, I mean, it's moot. It's all for naught. I mean, we're looking for the number 1 seed, so we can't get so obsessed with one game that it costs us the next game. Again, Brock Purdy, not even 24 yet, talking like a 42-year-old, and that's sort of the beauty of Brock Purdy. He's just so mature, so measured, and thinks the right way. Thinks like a multi-year veteran, and you have to if you're in his position.
Matt Barrows with us. We can't end the interview without asking you, because you brought up Philly fans. How is Philly fans' performance on the media glass of this trip?
I probably made the best decision of my life in Philadelphia, where they seat the visiting media in the first row of the press box, which is great because that's usually the best view. But it's right up against the back row of the Philly fans, and they're at eye level. I mean, you're not even above them. And so before kickoff, I noticed that the second row, the row behind me, was empty. That's where Prague Morate and some of the scouts are supposed to sit. Of course, those guys all had a sweet luxury box somewhere, so they didn't sit there. So I moved back to the second row. And then during that whole episode we were just talking about with Dom, the security guy, the Eagles fans turned around and started banging on the glass. And the glass partition broke open.
Oh, no!
And so all of a sudden, this protective barrier that you had against all the rabble outside.
No!
And listen, Dave, I'm not making this up when I say if I had been in the front row at that point, they would have snatched me into the stands. It would have been like that scene from The Wizard of Oz where the flying monkeys come down.
Oh, my God.
And pick up the scarecrow. And so luckily I was in the second row, safe and sound. And then they finally got the partition closed, and the security guy came and locked it so it wouldn't happen again. But it was a couple of frantic moments there when all of a sudden it's like when the zoo animal leaps over the wall. All of a sudden you don't have that protection anymore.
Advantage animal.
Wow, we almost lost you.
Exactly.
Hey,
it was a harrowing experience.
Let me ask you something. Had they, in your mind's eye, pulled you out into the crowd and they were crowd surfing you over just before you disappeared into the crowd, would you have some point have said, Dave?
It would have been like the movie Taken, where you're and you get on the phone with the Philly fans and you say, listen, I have a certain set of skills. We're going to find him again.
Yeah.
Oh, good work, Matt. Oh, it's always good to get big wins, isn't it?
Yes.
You can joke about Matt almost getting pulled into a crowd.
Dom would have saved you.
Dom would have had your back. Who's the Niners Dom, by the way? Do they have a Dom? I was thinking about this.
They have a Dom. He's a very understated guy. I can't even pull his name right now,
okay.
But he was only prominent when the I think it was a Rams game where the two smoke bombers ran onto the field. And, so he was one of the people. I can tell you right now, he is not lined up at the sideline. He's very discreet, very low keyed, and he is the anti-Dom. I would call him.
Yeah, because we were saying earlier, when you have 55, 6'5", 300-pound guys on a sideline, you super duper need a security guy right next to them facing the field in case any angry football players come towards them. It's so weird.
Yeah, I mean, it gave me, you always see it, especially in college football, but the strength coach is usually the guy who's out there, he's got the biceps out and, so muscular that he can't even kind of put his arms down to his side. A little bit. That's usually the guy who's, exuding the testosterone on the sideline. It's not usually the security guy.
Just stick to carrying the stereo or whatever the security guy is supposed to do. My goodness, Dom. Thank you. Thank you for all the stories from Philadelphia. Glad you're back home safe, and hopefully we're having another fun conversation after a big win this weekend, Matt. Thanks again.
All right. I'll talk to you guys next week.
Thank you. Wow, that visual. I just have that visual.
I'm so glad we just Matt.
He's like Norbert, just flying.
People